Welcome everybody to our Personal Career Management Careercast. So we've assembled members of the team today to see if we can answer some of the common challenges that people are facing at the moment. We know this is a challenging situation for lots of reasons, and people are worried about their career. So what we want to do is to be able to offer some advice and help. And to do that, I've got some assorted team members with me here today. I've got Jane and Joe and Adrian. Welcome to you.
Hi, Corinne.
So, look, I've been reading today that a quarter of the UK's working population has been furloughed, which is astonishing. So there's an awful lot of people at home doing nothing today because they can't officially work. But also, sadly, lots of people have lost their jobs or are worried about the future in terms of their career. If we're thinking, let's start with the kind of bleakest first. If we're thinking about the worst case scenario, and for people who have either lost their job or who are worried about losing it, what advice might you give to them? And if we start with Joe, what advice might you give to somebody who's either lost their job or worried about losing it?
The first thing I'd say is don't panic, and that's really easy to say and possibly less easy to make happen. But I'd say don't panic, because just with the numbers you've just said there, a quarter of the UK workforce haven't suddenly become unemployable. They were employable before this happened. They remain employable. Knee-jerk reaction maybe get my CV out, dust it off, add something. I'd say take the opportunity, stop, pause, think, what do I actually want to do next, before you rush to get your CV updated and out there.
So there's something about kind of not panicking and pausing. I mean, Adrian, what's your advice might be for somebody who's lost their job?
Yeah, I think they need to think about what's likely to be happening in their sector. So, you know, there's some quite stark differences between what's happening in different sectors. I think you could probably break it down into four, maybe. Some sectors are booming. Okay, so to start on the positive, there are some sectors which are booming. Some which are weathering the storm well or okay. They know that there'll be some change in the sector after all of this, but maybe we're not sure but they'll be okay. There are some sectors which we're already starting to see are going to take a big hit. Retail, there's lots of bad news. Travel and tourism, hospitality, aviation are some of the sectors where we're seeing some big hits already, and probably a lot where they still don't know quite what the impact is going to be. So I think depending on where they fall within that might point them towards different approaches. So if you're in a sector where you think this isn't going to come back, then you may then be thinking, so back to Joe's point, what is it that I want to do? Because maybe I'm actually in a position where I've got to consider something different than I've done before, as an example.
Yes, thank you. And Jane, just thinking about your sense of where the recruitment market is at the moment, are people hiring? And do you think there are some kind of more radical changes that are going to be happening going forward in the job market?
It's really interesting, and I'm delighted to say that there's lots of evidence that I'm seeing where the recruitment market is incredibly busy. Clients I'm working with, preparing to be interviewed on Zoom or start their new jobs remotely, which presents different challenges. So I think, yeah, there will be some big changes. I think back to what Adrian was saying, in line with sectors that are struggling. I've certainly worked with 2 or 3 people recently who are thinking about, how do I change? What are the options for me? And also thinking about quite radical change. And the one thing that I'd certainly recommend individuals think about is that if that's the case, I'm thinking about radical change as well as reflecting on wants and needs, as Joe and Adrian have mentioned, to also really think about that. What have I got to offer? In terms of your employability, your skills, your knowledge, your experience, what you've achieved. So, because that will help build confidence to start to think about bringing about that kind of change.
And so how do you check your employability? So you might know that your sector is, there's not going to be the opportunities that you want. You might want to do something different. But how do you check your employability against something that you might be interested in? And Joe, what's your thoughts about how you might do that?
This could be a great time to research. So, you've got perhaps more time on your hands. You might be furloughed, you might not be commuting. You can use LinkedIn, you can reach out to connections. Lots and lots of good opportunity to do desk research into sectors that might be new to you. And also reach out and have conversations with people perhaps that you've lost touch with, or make new connections to find out what's going on. So you get real live feedback and advice.
Any other thoughts about kind of how you check your employability as well? Some really good advice there.
So if you're finding roles that are of interest, then benchmark your skills alongside the requirements of those roles. So really study the person specifications, so that list of essential and desirable criteria, and think about what examples you can bring to evidence what those new employers might be looking for, and are there any gaps? What might you be able to do about bridging those gaps?
Thank you. And Adrian?
Yeah, I was thinking along the same lines as Jane as she was speaking there. Yeah, it's time to do a skills audit. You can, as she said, you can look at the person specifications. Think about those gaps, especially if you're changing sectors. It may be as well, a good thing to present what you can offer in a different way. So, if you've always applied for jobs within a sector, people, for example, in their CVs tend to do a chronological kind of type of CV where they just list their experiences, and it's quite obvious how one role that they're doing now might lead on to the next one. You might want to sort of present your skills, the transferable skills that you've got, which match on to the person specification, and put those forward, and somewhat put your career history, which evidences them. It'll still be there, but it'd be a bit further down on the CV.
Okay, some great advice there. So in terms of, for the people who are furloughed, right, so officially they can't work at the moment. I think they could do some volunteering, but actually they have got this window of time. I mean, yes, I know people are looking after their families and perhaps homeschooling, and they've got a lot on their plate. But career-wise, are there things that they could actually be usefully doing at this time that would help them? Jane, any thoughts?
I guess thinking about their networks might be helpful for them. So that's something that certainly clients we work with note and notice when they're going through a career coaching program, that they've perhaps not kept on top of their network or stayed in touch with people that might be helpful for them in the future. And this is a great time to start building some of those relationships. So yeah, make a list of the people that you know who might be helpful, plan a contact strategy. Initially it's just about checking in, how are they amidst this global crisis that we're all facing, but have a question for them, have something that you want to explore, or a piece of advice.
Fantastic. Adrian, any advice from you about kind of the people who are at home at the moment?
Yeah, I'd say if people have got time, a great way to invest some of that time is some online training. There's just so much out there. So back to the skills audit, if you think, that to transfer into another sector or to make yourself more employable within your current sector, it'll be really handy to have let's say a particular certification or accreditation or whatever. Investing some time into some online training would be really great. There's lots of free online training, especially aimed at furloughed workers. Actually, on the Department for Education government website, there's a list of free training. There's a lot about digital skills, which is estimated 12 million people could do with upgrading their digital skills. That'd be a really, really good use of time.
That's a great way to increase your employability.
Absolutely.
Any thoughts from you, Joe?
Think about those people who might be thinking about this is a chance to career change, so to really pivot and not to go back to the same. If you've got the time, you can literally do research and listen and watch webinars and seminars and read and do all those things that you might not normally find the time for. So a big career change can take some time because you've got to accumulate lots and lots of information to assess if it's going to be better for you. And time is the one thing we so often don't have enough of, and it gets squeezed. So we've got this opportunity, so it could be a great chance to experiment and learn.
Thank you. Adrian, what's your thoughts about kind of working from home and the career implications of that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I've certainly come across clients that this is being quite a, an eye-opening experience for them. So they're sort of listening to themselves, finding that, spending time with the family, which is time perhaps that they were spending before commuting, has changed their perspective about what they would like to do afterwards. They really realise that, their whole kind of well-being feels a lot better with a bit more balance and more time with the family. So it's probably not quite answering what you were saying, but I think that's an observation that I've had, is that people are reevaluating, what they might go back to afterwards as a result of having this experience. So, sorry, slightly different take on what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure. I'm sure there's a whole load of reevaluation that's going on at the moment. And Joe, if people are reevaluating, what do they need to do about it? They might say, well, actually, I like this way of working. I don't want to go back into the office or work in the way that we used to. Well, how are they going to tackle that?
I guess it's evidence. So how were you doing your job before, and the impact you were having, and how you're doing your job now and the impact you're having. So that's going to be quite difficult to go back to an HR professional, for example, or a line manager and them say, oh, no, you have to be back in the office Monday to Friday, 9 till 6. We need you here. Some jobs clearly do have to be on site, but this is going to be a massive opportunity for people to demonstrate they do not need to be on site all the time. And there's going to be a win for businesses out of that as well.
Thank you. And Jane, what do you see as kind of some of the opportunities of that more flexible working, but also some of the risks?
I guess the opportunities of flexible working are that you can, you're going to be learning how to work in a different way. So thinking about leadership at the moment and that whole managing remote teams, that's certainly a very different slant on doing that all of the time, and developing a particular facet, I guess, of leadership. I think there's some managers at the moment who are incredibly busy, as you were just saying, Corinne, and that additional workload of staying in touch with teams and checking in with them. How are they in terms of their well-being and managing stress and so forth? That's another whole piece of learning if that is something that a leader is interested in developing further. I think one of the risks is make sure you stay connected. Make sure you stay connected. If you were in the office, what would you be doing? And how can you replicate that whilst you're at home? So don't lose touch with people.
Right, so stay connected is important. And Joe, I think you wanted to come in there as well and say something.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it has obviously changed because so many people are having meetings like this so that we can all see into each other's homes in a way that we wouldn't ordinarily do. Now, we know that amongst the team, we've all seen some things that possibly we didn't need or want to see over the course of the last few weeks. But going back to the real world and what that's going to be like, in some ways, I think that's reinforced relationships because we're seeing a different person to the one we normally see in the office. I think in some cases, for some people, they're going to find that quite tricky to put back in the box because you've been in their personal space more than they would ordinarily want you to have been. So I think that's going to be a challenge going forward.
Okay. So kind of just wrapping up, if there is one tip that you all might have for, that people could do this week that would help, put their career in a better place. So Adrian, what might your tip of the week be?
Do a skills audit, look for gaps, and then investigate online training to plug the gaps.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jane?
So mine would be ask for a career conversation with your boss. Senior managers are paying much more attention to how you are. So take the opportunity, as Jo was just touching on in terms of developing that relationship, ask for some time with them, thinking about your future career. What do you want to change? What do you want to stay the same? What do you want to be different? Your opportunity to tell them what you want.
Fantastic. And Jo, how about you?
Reach out to somebody you've not spoken to, that you've worked with professionally and you've not been in touch with for at least 3 years, and just reach out and say hi and ask how they're doing and see where that conversation goes.
Thank you everyone for your advice and your input. It's been really helpful. So we would love to hear from you at home. So do send us in your queries, or perhaps you've got a particular career scenario that you'd like some input on. Send it to us. We're going to flag up our website, but you can also get in touch with us via Twitter, and we'd love to hear from you. So from all of us on the panel, keep well, stay safe, and we wish you every success. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.